My name is Mara Jennings, and my father always taught me that family comes first. It was one of those sayings he'd toss around like a mantra, like grace before dinner or a worn coat passed down. It was supposed to mean something. Something solid. Something safe. So when he texted me that evening, dinner's cancelled, mom's tired, I didn't question it. I was disappointed, sure. I had spent the day looking forward to it. I'd even picked up a small bouquet for the table. Yellow freesia, mom's favorite, but I tacked the flowers in a glass on my kitchen counter. Ordered Thai. Ate alone. No big deal. Until it was. It's strange how silence can scream when you're looking for sound. The quiet in my apartment felt heavier than usual, like it had teeth. I remember how the pad thai sat heavy in my stomach, untouched, the steam curling up like a whisper I couldn't quite hear. I was scrolling through Instagram when it happened. Just a mindless swipe through stories, until I saw my brother's. A photo. The dining table at home, fully set, wine glasses gleaming, candles burning like secrets. My mouth went dry. At first, I thought maybe it was old. Maybe he forgot to take it down. But the timestamp was clear. 13 ago. I stared at the screen, then at the text from my father. My thumb hovered over it. Dinner's cancelled. The words blurred as my eyes welled up. Not from sadness exactly. Not yet. Just from the raw slap of confusion. Why lie? I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there in that strange quiet, staring at a screen that told two stories. One where I was part of them, and one where I was very clearly not. And something in my chest shifted. A small, sharp snap. Something I didn't even know was still holding on. I told myself not to overthink it. Maybe they'd forgotten I was coming. Maybe mom really had been tired and changed her mind, then rallied. Maybe it was a last-minute thing. Maybe. But I've learned that maybes are just lies dressed in softer clothes. I couldn't stop looking at the photo. The table was perfect. Plates, napkins folded like fans, a rose glistening at the center. The good silverware. The wine mom only brings out for special occasions. My brother had captioned it with a stupid inside joke, one that used to include me. I sat on my couch, phone in hand, like a guest who never got the invitation, and then I got in the car. No real thought to it. I just needed to see it with my own eyes, needed to know I wasn't imagining things. I drove slowly, like guilt could be speeding. When I turned onto their street, I cut the headlights, parked across from the house, and there it was, light spilling through the windows, warm and golden. Laughter, real unashamed laughter that reached the sidewalk. The table wasn't just set, it was full. My dad at the head, mom cutting into the roast, my brother showing something on his phone to his girlfriend. Even my uncle was there. He lives 2 hours away, but not me. There was no chair left empty. No plate waiting. I wasn't missing. I was erased. And that's when the ache started. Not loud, not immediate. Just a slow, sinking heaviness in the center of my chest. Like grief, but colder. Like waking up in a house that suddenly doesn't remember you. They didn't forget. They chose this. I watched through the window, quiet and still in the dark, while they toasted to something I would never know. And I realized that for all the times I'd been told family comes first, there was always a silent clause attached. As long as you agree, as long as you obey, otherwise, you're just cancelled. I didn't sit there long. A few minutes, maybe. Long enough for the shame to settle on my skin like frost. Long enough to watch my mother laugh at something my uncle said, her hand pressed lightly to her chest, the same way she used to when she laughed at my jokes. Long enough to understand that I wasn't missing because someone forgot to call me. I was missing because someone chose not to. I backed out slowly, careful not to draw attention. The last thing I needed was to be caught watching through the window like a stranger. But maybe that's what I'd become. A stranger in the family I was born into. The drive home was quiet. Just the low hum of the tires on the road and my own breath trying to stay steady. I didn't cry. I'm not sure why. Maybe I was too stunned. Or maybe I'd run out of tears a long time ago and just never noticed. I replayed everything in my head like a scratched record. My dad's text, the story post, The window lit like a stage. Their laughter, my absence, and then, beneath all of it, his voice. From a week ago. You're being selfish, Mara. He'd said it with such finality, like it was the truth. Like that one sentence could erase all the birthdays I never missed, all the times I showed up when no one else did. All because I said no. He wanted me to co-sign a loan, a big one, and I said I needed time. Said I wasn't comfortable, that I had to protect my own credit, my own future. He didn't want my honesty. He wanted my compliance. When I refused, something in his voice shifted, and now, so had everything else. That dinner wasn't cancelled. It just went on without me, because saying no, even once, had made me the enemy. It wasn't the first time he'd asked the loan. He brought it up like it was no big deal, just a signature. Just a formality. Just helping out your father. The way he said it made it sound harmless, like it would be selfish to even hesitate. Come on, Mara. I raised you. You really gonna say no? I remember the chill that went through me. Not because I didn't love him, but because I could hear the shift beneath his words. Love had become a transaction. I asked questions. The bank name. The amount. The purpose. He brushed them off like FLIs. Said I didn't need to worry about the details. Said I either trusted him or I didn't. That was his favorite game, putting love on a scale and demanding you weigh it with obedience. When I told him I couldn't do it, that I wasn't comfortable risking my name, his voice dropped. You've always been like this. Like what? Careful? Responsible? Afraid of being pulled into another one of his half-finished ventures that always ended in debt and disappointment. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I just said no. And he went quiet. That kind of silence that isn't passive, it's a warning. The kind that says, you'll regret this. I thought it would pass. I thought we'd be awkward for a while, maybe. Not talk for a bit. But families fight. Families recover. What I didn't expect was the punishment to come like this, through a lie, through exclusion, through a dinner table with no seat left for me. It wasn't about the loan anymore. It was about the message. He didn't just want my help. He wanted control. And when he didn't get it, he decided to make sure I felt the consequences. I wasn't just left out. I was being taught a lesson. But what he didn't know is I'd already learned it, and I was done being the one who paid. You think the worst part is the lie. But it's not. It's the silence that follows. It's waking up the next morning and checking your phone, half expecting someone, anyone, to say something, to text, to explain, to apologize. Even a lazy excuse would have been something. But nothing came. No call from mom. No message from my brother. Not even a hey, you okay? From my cousin, who always sends memes and late-night TikToks. They all went on like I didn't exist. Like I hadn't spent my whole life showing up for them. Birthdays, holidays, late-night drives when someone needed a ride. Money I loaned and never asked to be paid back. But one boundary, one no, and I was erased. I went through the day in a fog. Checked my email. Took 2 Zoom calls. Smiled where I had to. But my chest felt like a locked room I couldn't open. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not yet. Not because I was ashamed. Because I still couldn't believe it. Because if I said it out loud, it would be real. I found myself staring at the vase of yellow freesia on my counter. They'd started to droop, their heads bowed, as if embarrassed to still be standing in a place they weren't wanted. And for a moment, I envied them. At least they didn't have to pretend. There's a certain kind of pain that comes from being cast out without a word. It's not just rejection, it's invisibility. And the silence became its own kind of message. You don't matter unless you serve us. I think part of me had always known, had always felt the conditional love, the strings, the expectations. But I'd kept performing, kept hoping love might one day feel less like a transaction. But hope is expensive when you're the only one paying. And I was broke. That night, I opened the safe. It had been months since I'd touched it, since I'd pulled out the thick envelope my grandfather left me. He passed a year ago, quietly, without spectacle. Unlike my father, Grandpa believed in quiet gestures, firm handshakes, Long silences that somehow made you feel safe, not scrutinized. He never asked for much. Just honesty. Just presence. I remember when he handed me the envelope after our last lunch together. We were sitting in the back booth at Dee's Diner, sharing fries. He slid it across the table like it was just a bill, said I never treated you equal, he mumbled. Figured it's time I fixed that. I hadn't opened it until after the funeral. Inside. Documents. Legal, tidy, final. He left me 40% of the family business. Silently. With intention. And no speeches. No favors. No guilt. Attached. At the time. I didn't understand why. I wasn't the golden child. I didn't have the business degree. I wasn't the one Dad always bragged about. But Grandpa saw something my father never cared to look for. That I showed up. That I thought before acting. That I didn't need the spotlight to do the work. He gave me a seat at the table when no one else thought I deserved one. And now, here I was excluded from dinner, ghosted by my own blood, staring at the one thing that reminded me I still had a voice. Maybe the only real voice. I logged into the company's admin portal. My name was still there, tucked under silent partner. Hidden but present. My access still active. My stake untouched. I clicked through to the account settings. Paused. And then I smiled. They'd made me feel invisible. But they forgot one thing. Even a ghost can move the walls if she knows where the beams are. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like alignment. Like the truth quietly rising to meet the lie. I sat at my desk, the screen casting a pale glow over the yellowing freesia. Beside me, they looked brittle now, almost translucent. The petals curled in like they were protecting themselves. Same. I pulled up the financial dashboard for Jennings & Co., the business that bore our family name but not our values. At least, not anymore. It was all there. The cash flow, the vendor lines, the payroll approvals. My father's name flagged under executive access, grandfathered in through title, not merit. His logins were active, his authority unchecked. I hovered over the permissions tab. Clicked. And then, I revoked it, just like that. No fanfare. No password required. The system asked, "Are you sure you want to remove access for Richard Jennings?" Yes. It didn't ask why. It didn't call me selfish. It didn't punish me for thinking for myself. It just did what I asked. I froze 3 account links tied to his name, added a temporary halt on any large withdrawals. Then I flagged an alert to notify only me of future access changes. Simple, clean, invisible, a system error. That's what it would look like to him. I closed the laptop and sat back in my chair. It was the first time in days I exhaled fully, not in relief, but in clarity. This wasn't petty. It wasn't some petty tantrum. It was remembering who I am. Remembering that being cut out of a dinner table doesn't mean I don't own the land the table is standing on. They made a choice. So did I, and for once, I didn't need anyone's approval to do it. I didn't need permission to protect myself. He called me just after 10 a.m. Not unusual. He never really respected working hours. Never quite understood that just because he had built something once didn't mean it still ran the same, without rules. "Hey," he said, voice sharp with annoyance, not concern. "Something's wrong with the system." I blinked at my computer screen where his access log still sat open. "Wrong?" "Yeah, I can't get into the accounts. Says my permissions are revoked or some crap. Talked to Henry over in accounting. He said he's locked out of transfers too." "You know anything about this?" I sipped my coffee slowly. "Oh," I said, "that's odd." He kept talking over me as usual, listing the things he couldn't do, grumbling about vendors, needing payment, something about a planned invoice, something about his hands being tied. I let him spiral. I let him feel it. Not because I enjoyed his panic, but because I wanted him to taste the silence he served me days ago, to sit with the confusion, to be on the outside of something he thought he controlled. He finally paused. "Mara, seriously, can you check on it?" I smiled and said the words I'd been holding, the ones that stitched every wound into armor. "Oh, I thought dinner was cancelled." Silence. Not the startled kind. The kind that hurts. The kind that doesn't ask questions because it already knows the answer. He didn't yell, didn't plead. He just hung up. I stared at the phone for a long time after that. Because the silence this time, it was mine. Not his punishment. My protection. He called again twice that day. I didn't answer. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't scream or cry or explain. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not show up. Just, like they taught you, they noticed. Of course they did. It started small, my brother texting. Hey, you good? Like nothing happened. Like I hadn't watched him post a dinner I wasn't invited to. Like silence wasn't a decision. I didn't reply. Then came the email from my mother. Polite. Sugar slicked. Full of soft words and hard denial. We were just trying to keep things light that night. You've seemed so stressed lately. It wasn't personal. Except it was. She just didn't want to hold the knife after it was thrown. Next came my uncle. Calling from a blocked number. He left a voicemail I didn't listen to. And then finally my father. And no more pretending it was a glitch. No more blaming accounting. He sent an email at a.m. The subject line in all caps. We need to talk. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Because I knew what it would say. Something about legacy. About family. About how I'd taken it too far. Funny how the people who push you to the edge are always the first to call it an overreaction when you finally take a step. The office noticed too. A few managers reached out, cautiously polite. There was confusion in the air, soft questions about changes, about leadership. I handled it all with grace. Professional, direct, no gossip, no drama. Let them wonder. Let them finally see the one person they'd underestimated was the one who'd been holding the foundation up all along. My father stopped showing up at the office. For the first time in 20 years, his chair sat empty at meetings. And no one dared to ask why, but I saw it in their eyes. They already knew. The silence I once feared had become my shield. They thought excluding me from dinner would make me beg. Instead, it taught me appetite. And I was finally feeding myself. I hosted dinner at my place the following Sunday. Nothing fancy. Just homemade lasagna, garlic bread, a bottle of wine I actually liked. Not the overpriced vintage Dad used to brag about. I set the table for 6 friends, chosen family, people who had shown up for me when I didn't ask them to, who didn't disappear when I said no, who loved me without conditions, without guilt, without expecting me to trade my dignity for a seat. They brought stories and warmth, not judgment. We laughed real, full-bellied laughter that didn't need to be curated for show. I watched the flicker of the candles and felt, for the first time in a long time, full, not just fed. Seen. No one talked about my father, or the fallout, or what it means to be betrayed by the people who taught you how to spell your name but never really learned who you were. I didn't need to. The air didn't carry the weight of unspoken apologies or fake niceties. Just honesty. Just comfort. After everyone left and I was cleaning up, I passed by the empty chair at the head of the table, the one I hadn't filled. I let it stay empty. Not as a statement, as a reminder that I'm allowed to take up space. That I'm allowed to build something better, even if it's smaller. Even if it looks different from what I was raised in. Family isn't built on blood. It's built on truth, on effort, on choice. They taught me how to survive, but I taught myself how to thrive. And I will never beg for a seat again. Because I finally remembered I don't need their table. I have my own. And it's never missing my name.